Mike Tyson remains one of the most electrifying forces in the history of sports. A man whose fists reshaped the world of boxing and whose name once reverberated through arenas like the rumble of thunder in a storm. He was the youngest heavyweight champion ever crowned, the destroyer of giants. The legend behind iconic moments such as his 91-second annihilation of Michael Spinks. Tyson was more than just a fighter. He was a spectacle, a storm, a once-in-a-generation talent who rose from the unforgiving streets of Brooklyn with nothing but raw fury and lightning-fast speed. Born into a childhood scarred by poverty, violence, and abandonment, he fought his way to the top with a ferocity that the world had never seen. From a troubled youth with a lisp to a global icon feared by champions and adored by millions, Tyson's story was one of immense transformation. But behind the cheers of adoring fans and the roar of the crowd, there was a life shaped by deep shadows. Today, at 59, the man who once shocked the world in the boxing ring now faces a different kind of battle. One filled with regrets, lingering trauma, fragile health, and a kind of pain no opponent was ever able to knock out. As we explore the triumphs and tragedies of this extraordinary life, consider liking this video. It's a simple gesture, a way to honor the incredible, complex, and unforgettable legend that is Mike Tyson. It's heartbreaking how the fiercest champions often emerge from places that sought to break them, long before the world ever knew their names. Mike Tyson came into the world on June 30th, 1966, in Brooklyn's Fort Greene Hospital, born into a family already fractured by absence and uncertainty. His biological father, Purcell Tyson, disappeared so early that Mike would later say he had no memory of him. For a brief moment, another man, Jimmy Kirkpatrick, tried to step in as father, but he too walked away when Mike was just 2, leaving behind yet another silent wound that would shape how the young boy viewed himself. What remained was a tired mother, Lorna Tyson, battling day and night to keep Mike, his brother Rodney, and sister Denise afloat, as poverty and exhaustion pressed in from all sides like an unrelenting storm. They moved through a series of rundown apartments until they eventually settled in Brownsville, one of New York's toughest neighborhoods, where even hope seemed reluctant to stay. Brownsville in the 1970s was a place of cracked sidewalks, flickering streetlights, and sirens that ruled the night. Inside their apartment, with peeling paint and a refrigerator that often held nothing but air, Mike learned what hunger, cold, and quiet humiliation felt like. His oversized glasses and soft lisp made him an easy target. He was pushed, mocked, treated as though he were invisible. "People looked right through me," he later recalled, remembering how shame settled deep within him long before confidence ever had a chance to grow. With a mother stretched thin, siblings struggling, and no adult to protect him, Mike learned a brutal truth. When no one looks out for you, you learn to survive alone. Loneliness clung to him so tightly it felt like a second skin. But high above the noise and chaos on the rooftop of their building, he found the only solace life had ever given him: pigeons. He built their coops from scraps, fed them crumbs he salvaged from school lunches, and whispered his secrets into their feathers. "They were the first things I ever loved," Mike would later say, holding on to those fleeting moments of softness like a lifeline. Then came the afternoon that shattered it all. A local boy took Mike's favorite pigeon and left it broken on the ground. To others, it meant nothing. But to Mike, it was everything. In that moment, it felt as though the world had ended. The cold wind cut through his face as heartbreak and humiliation washed over him. Something deep inside fractured. Something that had been trembling under years of neglect and abandonment. A fire ignited within him, forged not from anger alone, but from fear, pain, and a vow he would carry for the rest of his life. He would never feel powerless again. That vow pushed him into the streets. Looking for a place to belong, Mike gravitated toward older boys who ran with a local gang, the Jolly Stompers. They weren't a family, not truly, but for a boy yearning to matter, they felt close enough. He ran errands, did their bidding, and absorbed the harsh rules of the neighborhood like air. Trouble became familiar. Police paperwork with his name on it stacked up. By the time he was 13, he had been detained nearly 40 times. But when the streets grew too dangerous and too cruel, he retreated to abandoned buildings, using the broken walls as makeshift training grounds. He would strike the air with everything he had, his fists echoing through the hollow rooms. Each punch was a reminder of his vow. No one would ever humiliate him again. Then in 1978, one act of desperation, a purse snatching, landed him at the Tryon School for Boys in upstate New York. If Brownsville had been harsh, Tryon was colder. Long, dim hallways stretched on endlessly. Metal frame beds creaked through the night, and silence hung so thick it felt like it could crush a child's chest. Yet, the most painful wound wasn't the place itself. It was the emptiness of the visitor's room. For 9 months, Mike sat closest to the door, waiting for his mother to visit. She never came. "I thought nobody cared," he later admitted, carrying the ache of a boy who waited for a door that would never open. And then, within those bleak walls, fate finally intervened. One afternoon, Bobby Stewart, a counselor and former boxer, watched Mike hit a heavy bag with power that far exceeded his years. Stewart froze, mesmerized by the raw strength, the wounded fury, and the desperate hunger to survive. In that moment, he saw something in Mike that no one else had. Promise. For the first time, someone saw him. It's incredible how a single moment, a single person, can redirect a life that the world had already written off. At just 14, Mike walked into the Catskill Boxing Club, escorted by Bobby Stewart, who had spent months observing the angry, wounded boy unleash his fury on a heavy bag. Mike expected another adult to judge him, dismiss him, or ignore him, as so many others had. But inside that dusty, dimly lit gym stood Cus D'Amato, an aging trainer with tired shoulders and eyes sharp enough to pierce through the armor Mike had spent years building. Cus studied him in silence, his gaze piercing. Then he spoke the impossible. "I believe you can be the youngest heavyweight champion in the world." The words hit Mike harder than any punch he had ever taken. No one had ever expected greatness from him. Not a single soul had ever believed he could amount to anything. But standing there in that quiet gym, a new sensation washed over him. Something unfamiliar and terrifying. The weight of being seen. That moment shifted everything. Cus didn't just open his gym to him, he opened his home, his dinner table, his belief. Mike, who had bounced between broken apartments and sleepless nights, now slept under a roof where someone left the hallway light on, just to let him know he wasn't alone. But belonging came at a price. Cus demanded discipline with a ferocity Mike had never known. Early morning runs through the freezing Catskill mornings carved ice into his lungs. His legs trembled as he pushed himself up those steep hills, each step a war against the ghosts of Brownsville, the bullies, the hunger, the shame. Then came the real training. 2,000 squats, 2,500 sit-ups, 500 dips, brutal neck exercises, and sparring sessions with grown men whose punches felt like sledgehammers. Mike went to bed sore, thinking he wouldn't wake up the next morning. Yet, in that pain, something extraordinary began to form. A fragile belief that maybe, just maybe, he could be someone. But every rise demands a sacrifice. In 1982, when he was just 16, Mike's mother, Lorna, passed away. For years, he had tried to escape the emptiness left by her death, but grief has a way of finding what runs from it. He cried not only because she was gone, but because she never got to see the man he was becoming, someone close to him later said. Yet, in that painful hollow, Cus stepped in, not just as a trainer or mentor, but as the father Mike had been denied since birth. Cus became his legal guardian, grounding him with a stability Mike had never known. For the first time, someone chose him, not out of obligation, but out of belief. Under Cus's care, Mike transformed into something the boxing world had never seen before. A disciplined, explosive force shaped as much by psychology as by muscle. Cus taught him the peekaboo style, slipping punches by millimeters, striking from impossible angles, moving with the precision of a man fighting for his life. Mike studied endless reels of Jack Dempsey, memorizing every movement, every punch thrown with intent. His knuckles throbbed, his ribs ached, and his breath came in ragged bursts. But for the first time, pain didn't humiliate him. It defined him. It gave him purpose.